Countdown to catastrophe, the looming India-Pakistan nuclear crisis.
On August 14, 1947, the British government issued the Indian Independence Act, dividing British India into two dominions based on religion, India of Hindus and Pakistan of Muslims. This might be the first dawn of the two countries, but the darkest days of the world in the 20th century when about 15 million people had to leave their homes to evacuate to the new lands, causing religious and ethnic violence that led to the death of millions of people. The hostile atmosphere between the two nations has persisted for decades, leading to the outbreak of three major Indo-Pakistan wars in 1947, 1965, and 1971, and a limited war in 1999. The tension between the two nations continues to escalate till today, making the India-Pakistan conflict one of the world's longest-running conflicts.
Two nations, one border, and a history of conflict. Could the next spark ignite a nuclear inferno? Their relationship is defined by four major wars, countless skirmishes, and a deep-seated conflict over the disputed region of Kashmir, the most militarized zone in the world. India holds around 160 nuclear warheads, backed by the powerful Agni missile series, capable of reaching all of Pakistan and parts of China. With 1.45 million active troops, India commands one of the largest militaries on Earth. Its air fleet includes Rafales and Su-30 MKEs, while its navy operates nuclear submarines and carriers. Together, this triforce makes India a global power with a strategic edge. Pakistan possesses an estimated 165 nuclear warheads, delivered through its Shaheen and Ghaznavi missile systems. With over 650,000 active troops, its military is battle-hardened and deeply entrenched. In the skies, Pakistan flies F-16s and its own JF-17 Thunder, co-developed with China, forming a fast, agile strike force. Together, these assets shape Pakistan's powerful regional deterrent.
India shares a 3,323-kilometer border with Pakistan. This border is divided into three parts. First is the international border IB, second is the line of control LOC, and third is the actual ground position line AGPL. IB is 2,400 kilometers from Gujarat to North Akner in Jammu. The LOC is 740 kilometers, starts in Akner in Jammu and ends at NJ9842. This is also known as the ceasefire line, which came into existence after the Pakistan-India War in 1947. And this is the region where the trouble starts mostly. The AGPL line is 110 kilometers long. It starts at NJ9842 to Indira Kol in the north. However, it is called Siachen, but is mainly known as Aksai Chin. Kashmir, the most volatile piece of land on Earth. For over 75 years, it's been the spark behind wars, bloodshed, and relentless tension. Claimed by both India and Pakistan, the region has witnessed countless skirmishes and 3 full-scale wars. Every border clash risks igniting something far worse in a nuclear-armed neighborhood.
In 2025, a deadly terrorist attack rocked Kashmir. Without any investigation, India blamed Pakistan immediately for this attack. Tensions reignited. Retaliatory strikes followed, pulling 2 nuclear powers back to the edge.
Another breaking news coming in, this one from Pakistan. What we are learning is that Imran Khan has also reacted to the Pahalgam terror attack, making a huge statement. Now, the former Pakistan Prime Minister Imran Khan has said, and I quote, "Instead of introspection and investigation, Modi Sarkar is again placing the blame on Pakistan. India needs to act responsibly instead of messing with a region already known as a nuclear flashpoint. Peace is our priority, but it should not be mistaken as cowardice. Pakistan has got all the capabilities to give a befitting response to any Indian misadventure. He goes on to say India is led by the RSS ideology and is a grave threat to the region. Indian oppression in Kashmir is the pitch coming in from Imran Khan, intensified after the illegal abrogation of Article 370, and this has further fueled the Kashmiri people's desire for freedom. Is the pitch coming in from the former Pakistan Prime Minister Imran Khan, who's trying to give this spin to the entire Pahalgam terror attack, trying to distance the Pakistani state from the Pahalgam terror attack, and at the same time even attacking his rivals who are currently in government inside Pakistan.
Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi has flexed the might of his nation in a powerful speech which blasted Pakistan, putting them on notice and saying India will have justice for the senseless killings of innocent people.
They were like innocent people who were just enjoying themselves and citizens, and they asked them what their religion was. And then in front of their families, in front of their children, they were killed with so brutally. And this was a big terrorist, and this was a very bad and a very cruel face of the terrorism.
He then sent out a blunt warning to any terrorists looking to harm India and its people.
He also told our army of India that they can do whatever they wish, however they wish. And today, each and every terrorist and every organization who are terrorists, they know that our daughters and our sisters, that if they want to remove the sindoor from the foreheads of our daughters and our sisters, and what will be the consequences of it.
ये मस्जिद तैयबा मरकज उमरकरा के अंदर ये नुकसान है।
We begin with breaking news. State-run TV in Pakistan says the country has launched a retaliatory military operation against India. Operation Bunyan-ul-Marsus, which translates to a firm wall of lead, is targeting military facilities in India. The Pakistani military released this video and said they've used medium-range Fateh missiles to target a missile storage facility in Punjab and air bases in Pathankot and Udhampur. The assault was described as a response to Indian missiles targeting Pakistani air bases. This comes after a third day of heavy cross-border fighting. It's the worst confrontation between the two nuclear-armed neighbours in decades.
Pakistan says it is retaliating after accusing India of striking 3 of its air bases overnight, including one close to the capital, Islamabad. Both countries have blamed each other for the violence since militants killed Indian tourists last month in Indian-administered Kashmir. Pakistan has denied any involvement. At least 50 people have been killed since the fighting escalated on Wednesday. The G7 group of the world's top industrial nations has called for an immediate de-escalation and direct dialogue between the two countries.
In retaliation, Pakistan claims to have shot down 5 Indian aircraft, although this has not been confirmed by India.
Well, man, get it going, man. Could you get a certification like that one? Huh? Love did. It's not bonded. You get Christian.
I can confirm you that 5 Indian aircrafts, including 3 Rafale, 1 Su-30 and 1 MiG-29 have been shot down, and 1 Heron drone has also been shot down. So I would also like to emphasize that all of these engagements have been done as a defensive measure after these aircraft or the Indian aircraft attacked the fire on the Pakistani territory.
ये नुकसान ये 9 number.
But I have the details as far as ground operations are concerned that Pakistan has engaged the Indian troops at multiple locations of line of control, and we have successfully not only taken on them, neutralized them at multiple locations.
As a result, a devastating blow to the Indian Air Force. 5 jets allegedly downed. Sources suggest the loss of 3 Rafales, a MiG-29 and a Su-30.
I will request Colonel Sophia Qureshi and Wing Commander Vyomika Singh to just update you and fill you in on the details.
5. Pakistan attempted to engage a number of military targets in northern and western India using drones and missiles. These places included Avantipura, Srinagar, Jammu, Pathankot, Amritsar, Kapurthala, Nal, Jalandhar, Ludhiana, Adhampur, Bhatinda, Chandigarh, Falodi, Uttarlai and Bhuj. These were neutralized by the integrated counter unmanned aerial system and other air defense systems. The debris of these attacks is now being recovered from a number of locations that prove the Pakistani attacks. Today morning, Indian Armed Forces targeted air defense radars and systems at a number of locations in Pakistan. Indian response has been in the same domain with the same intensity as Pakistan. It has been reliably learnt that an air defense system at Lahore has been neutralized. Pakistan has increased the intensity of its unprovoked firing across the line of control using mortar and heavy calibre artilleries in areas in Kupwara, Baramulla, Uri, Poonch, Mendhar and Rajouri sectors in Jammu and Kashmir. 16 innocent lives have been lost, including 3 women and 5 children, due to the Pakistani firing. Here too, India was compelled to respond to bring mortar and artillery fire from Pakistan to a halt. Indian Armed Forces reiterate their commitment to non-escalation, provided it is respected by the Pakistan military.
Actions between the war in India and Pakistan. What's your position?
Oh, it's so terrible. My position is I get along with both. I know both very well, and I want to see them work it out. I want to see them stop. And hopefully they can stop now. They've gone tit for tat, so hopefully they can stop now. But I know both. We get along with both countries very well. Good relationships with both, and I want to see it stop. And if I can do anything to help, I will be there.
We are continuing to follow closely the recent developments, and we reiterate our strong condemnation of the terrorist attack in Pahalgam and the terrible loss of life it caused. We condemn terrorism in all its forms and manifestations. Those responsible must be brought to justice. The High Representative stressed this in her recent conversations with both Indian and Pakistani counterparts. We do urge both sides to show restraint and take immediate steps towards de-escalation. The EU recalls the need for a negotiated, mutually agreed and lasting peaceful solution to the conflict.
Rising tensions between India and Pakistan will be of serious concern for many across Britain. We are engaging urgently with both countries, as well as other international partners, encouraging dialogue, de-escalation and the protection of civilians.
我们呼吁印巴双方以和平稳定的大局为重，保持冷静克制，避免采取使局势进一步复杂化的行动。 我们愿同国际社会一道努力，继续为缓解当前的紧张局势发挥建设性作用。
Der französische Präsident und ich sind uns einig. Wir sehen die Auseinandersetzungen zwischen diesen beiden Atommächten in der vergangenen Nacht mit allergrößter Sorge. Nun ist es mehr denn je erforderlich, kühlen Kopf zu bewahren. Besonnenheit und Vernunft ist gefragt. An einer
Claiming to have mediated a complete ceasefire, America's stance on the escalating India-Pakistan tensions shifted very quickly. On May 10th, in a post on Truth Social, President Donald Trump said that Washington had mediated a long night of talks, after which the two sides agreed to a truce. And this announcement came even before New Delhi's and Islamabad's. While India did not mention U.S. mediation, Pakistan thanked Washington. Our next report gets you more details.
We are not going to get involved in the middle of war. That's fundamentally none of our business and has nothing to do with America's ability to control it.
From this to this. From a hands-off approach to an abrupt complete ceasefire announcement by US President Donald Trump after what he claimed was a long night of talks. What made the United States change its stance on the worst fighting between India and Pakistan in decades?
A little bit of the past. They've been fighting for a long time. You know, they've been fighting for many, many decades and centuries, actually, if you really think about it.
But at the same time, Vance signaled that the White House wasn't planning to get involved, aside from encouraging a general de-escalation. So, what changed? According to CNN, the turning point came when Vance, Rubio, and White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles received what's being described as, quote, alarming intelligence about the conflict. We don't know what that intelligence entailed, but sources say it convinced the Trump administration that a significant escalation, possibly even a broader war, was imminent if action wasn't taken quickly. Vance reportedly briefed President Trump late Friday morning before placing a direct call to Indian Prime Minister Modi.
Reports say worries in the White House began to grow as an increasing number of artillery, drones and missiles were being exchanged between India and Pakistan. Washington feared the conflict between the two nuclear powers could spiral out of control since there were no signs of de-escalation. So from a not my monkey, not my circus approach, the United States claimed to have shifted to play the truce maker. US Secretary of State Marco Rubio also said he, along with Vice President J.D. Vance, engaged with senior Indian and Pakistani officials, including Prime Ministers, Foreign Ministers, Chiefs of Army Staff and the National Security Advisors. When J.D. Vance dialed India's Prime Minister Modi, reports say he received a clear message from New Delhi. If Pakistan attacks, India will retaliate harder.
This is a strike on the Noor Khan Air Base.
Hours after this call, responding to Pakistan's barrage of drones and artillery, India struck 3 Pakistani bases. This triggered more panic in Washington. This time, Marco Rubio reportedly picked up the phone for another round of diplomacy, placing separate calls to India's External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar and the Pakistani Army Chief Asim Munir. In that call, Rubio reportedly asked if India would de-escalate if Pakistan did too, to which India reminded the US that this had been its position all along. On Saturday, after some 2.5 hours of talks between Director General of Military of Operations of both India and Pakistan, the two sides reportedly agreed to stop the exchange of fire. But before either sides could announce the ceasefire, Trump popped it on his Truth Social account. Soon after, India's Foreign Secretary addressed a briefing but made no mention of any role by the United States.
Director General of Military Operations of Pakistan called the Director General of Military Operations of India at 15:35 hours earlier this afternoon. It was agreed between them that both sides would stop all firing and military action on land and in the air and sea.
But Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif thanked the United States as well as other countries he said helped to mediate, Saudi Arabia and China. Reports say the talks between India and Pakistan had already been underway even as drones and missiles flew back and forth. Some even labelled Trump's post as an overreach. But Trump was not to be stopped. He followed his ceasefire announcement with another post, offering to help find a solution to the Kashmir issue.
Top military leaders from Pakistan and India will meet later today to discuss the next steps after reaching a ceasefire this weekend. The U.S. brokered ceasefire seems to be holding for now. Border strikes and shelling stopped, but India says they've only suspended military action and are ready to strike in case of another terror attack. Let's go now to CBS News correspondent Chanel Call, who is following the story for us from the newsroom. Chanel, can you break down this ceasefire agreement?
Right, so Mughal, let's start with what happened this weekend, because just hours after the two sides agreed to a ceasefire on Saturday, explosions reportedly rang out in some border cities and towns. Artillery fire and attack drones, they were seen in Jammu and Kashmir, the center of much of the fighting, and some of the cities were also under blackout. Now, India accuses Pakistan of violating that pact, while the Foreign Ministry of Pakistan said the country was committed to the ceasefire. Now, things did seem to calm down by Saturday afternoon, our time. For the last 36 hours or so, it's been quiet on both sides of the border. Now, this morning, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi addressed the nation, saying India has only, quote, paused its military action and will retaliate on its own terms if there are any future terror attacks on the country. He also says, Mugo, that India will not tolerate any nuclear blackmail, and this is key because both India and Pakistan are nuclear-armed nations.
Mounting international concern over the India-Pakistan conflict, as both are armed with substantial nuclear arsenals. Atomic bombs have only been used twice, 80 years ago on Japan. What nuclear risks do the current hostilities pose?
While Pakistan accuses India of igniting an inferno in the region. But for many, a bigger threat looms. The two countries have been locked in a nuclear arms race for decades, keeping the size of their respective stockpiles shrouded in secrecy. Think tanks estimate India and Pakistan possess more than 170 nuclear warheads each. India has a no first use policy, meaning it will only deploy the weapons as retaliation, whereas Pakistan has not ruled out first use if it's under existential threat. Islamabad is known to have short and medium-range ballistic missiles and relies mostly on China for stocks and technical support, while Delhi is known to have longer-range missiles and a nuclear triad, meaning it can strike from land, air and sea. It's been buying billions of dollars in equipment from the West, including the US. And so far the superpowers have been calling for calm. In India, the latest headlines have been ramping up war rhetoric against their neighbour.
If there are military attacks on us, there should be no doubt that it will be met with a very, very firm response.
And Pakistan's Prime Minister also had fighting words.
We pledge that the blood of every fallen martyr will be avenged.
It absolutely is a scary subject, because the thing of nuclear weapons is they are indiscriminate and they cause grave harm, and it's harm that that can last generations. And that is a terrible problem, and it's why most countries don't have nuclear weapons, and it's why there's a huge urge for restraint right now between India and Pakistan, because wherever a nuclear weapon is used, if there is one that will be used, it would harm both Indians and Pakistanis.
And I think there are a few factors we can point to there. One is the role of external crisis managers, so the US and other countries coming in to try to facilitate, pull both sides back from the brink, right? Another is the role of luck, to be honest. You look back historically and we've had a number of lucky breaks that, had they gone a different way, it might have been more difficult to control escalation. And then a third that I think we do need to recognize here is, both sides see themselves and each other as rational actors. And I think there is an implicit sense that neither side wants things to escalate. And so what I worry most about is not that one side will deliberately choose to do something on purpose that could risk nuclear use, but instead it's that we could kind of fall into it in some way, someone accidentally, inadvertently, right? And I think that's the situation we're in and what we need to be most mindful of.
I agree that we have had some luck in the past on this and on other issues where, as a globe, as a world, we have come frighteningly close to the use of nuclear weapons, and you could think that it is good fortune which has kept us safe. But I think it is very important to emphasize what Elizabeth also just said, which is the rationality. I mean, it would be stupid of either government to launch a nuclear attack on the other. But what might happen is through escalation in action and in rhetoric as well, that there is something happens that is misinterpreted, miscommunication, and then suddenly the luck turns against us. If you wanted me to put a percentage on it, I would put a pretty low percentage on the risk. I mean, I think it is way short of probable that nuclear weapons are used, but that does not mean it's impossible. And the hope must be that if the two countries can get beyond this crisis, then they can get to a safer form of relationship with them, between each other, because the undefined border between the two countries of Jammu and Kashmir is a running sore for the past nearly 80 years, and it's a problem that really needs to be solved.
So both sides have nuclear armed missiles, but the missiles themselves are dual capable. That means that they could be armed with conventional weapons. And here's the thing with a missile. You don't actually know what the warhead on it is until it lands. And so when you're detecting the incoming missile, if you're a little bit trigger happy, or if you're quite nervous, as people are human and people are in a highly tense conflict situation, and might be misinterpreted to be a nuclear armed missile coming in. And then a response could be firing other nuclear armed missiles, and that could quickly escalate. And one of the great risks around nuclear weapons in particular is once they are introduced, that risk of escalation to all-out nuclear war is what is most likely. And it's what has been sort of gamed out over and over and over. And this region, because of the tension between India and Pakistan, because it's a known nuclear flashpoint, a lot of modeling has been done on what those impacts could look like. And it would not stay in India and Pakistan. And that's the thing, because what's likely is if you use nuclear weapons, they kick up a lot of soot into the atmosphere. And that soot blocks out sunlight. It has an impact on agriculture. And long-term impacts of even a small exchange of nuclear weapons between India and Pakistan could have a massive impact on food security for the entire globe. If they each use just a fraction of their current arsenal, that could affect hundreds of millions around the world. And that's a reason for everyone to be concerned. Again, the likelihood is not high, but the probability is not zero. And if the probability is not zero, we should take action to prevent the escalation into nuclear war, and to make sure that things like the hotline between the two are still working, that there are good communications, and even in times of crisis, you can still communicate and commit to not introducing nuclear weapons to this conflict.
Consequences of a nuclear war between India and Pakistan. At the heart of this fragile peace lies a nuclear shadow. Two neighboring states, India and Pakistan, both armed with nuclear weapons. The possibility of nuclear confrontation remains a terrifying and realistic scenario. Now imagine a scenario where Pakistani and India enter into a conventional military fight. Pakistan or India, facing overwhelming conventional defeat, decides to use tactical nuclear weapons to halt advances. In retaliation, the remaining one launches a massive counterstrike. What follows is a chain reaction of destruction, uncontainable by diplomacy or international intervention once the nuclear threshold is crossed. Immediate consequences. A 2022 study published in Science Advances modeled the effects of a nuclear exchange between India and Pakistan. According to the simulation, 50 to 125 warheads could be detonated over urban centers. Immediate death toll could range from 50 to 125 million people. Cities like New Delhi, Mumbai, Karachi, and Lahore would be reduced to ashes within minutes. The blast waves, thermal radiation, and ensuing fires would destroy infrastructure and overwhelm emergency response systems. Hospitals would collapse, electricity would fail, and communications would cease to function. The nuclear fallout, radioactive particles carried by the wind, would poison food and water supplies and affect regions far beyond the immediate blast zones, including parts of China, Central Asia, and the Middle East. Environmental fallout. The consequences of a nuclear war between India and Pakistan would not remain confined to South Asia. The same study predicts that the smoke and soot from the burning cities could inject 5 to 7 million tons of black carbon into the stratosphere, blocking sunlight and lowering global temperatures by 1 to 2 degrees Celsius, a phenomenon known as nuclear winter. This temperature drop could last for more than a decade. Global agricultural output would fall drastically, particularly in Asia, Africa, and Latin America. The ensuing famine could threaten 1 to 2 billion people globally with starvation. Geopolitical aftershocks. A nuclear conflict would destabilize the global economy. Global trade routes, especially those through the Indian Ocean, would be disrupted. Markets would collapse as investor confidence plummets. Oil prices would surge due to instability in the Persian Gulf and South Asia. Refugee crises would escalate as millions seek to flee radiation zones. Politically, the balance of power in Asia would shift, with China and Russia playing larger roles in the aftermath. The United Nations and global powers would face intense pressure to institute strict nuclear disarmament regimes. However, it may come too late for the millions already dead and the billions whose lives are irreparably altered.
Hello, this is Dr. Love Kher. I'm here with my friend Mr. KJ Sharma. Today we are going to be discussing the India-Pakistan relationship. Mr. Sharma, my first question is, since the inception of Pakistan, which is right after the independence, the relationship between the two countries has not been really harmonious. Can you comment on what are the reasons, please?
Yeah. Unfortunately, first of all, there was no reason for this partition between India and Pakistan. But unfortunately, the British who were ruling the country, they thought that, if this entire region remained united, this may become a very powerful vision. And the Western Europe or the Western world might have felt, that, if this vision becomes very strong, we would be on weaker. So that's how, as I feel, the British designed this and they instigated, they worked it out, the policy of divide and rule. So during their rule, in order to continue their ruling the country, they had started, using the divide and rule kind of a thing, dividing between all the castes among the Hindu community though this caste system and upper and lower and this and that, these things are in every community, whether it is Muslims or Hindus or even in Christians. So upper and lower is always there, but more so in India among the Hindus, there have been many castes. Those were not really castes. Those were the professional identifications. Like, if the goldsmith was there, or the blacksmith is there, or the farmer is there. These kind of titles you will find even in the Western world. You will find the title, surname, so and so farmer, so and so blacksmith, so and so goldsmith. So these were the actually professional identifications. But what happened that, because India had been invaded by various invaders. So whenever there is an attack on any community or any country, the people living in their own community, they want to swing and they want to remain within their own community. So then what happened? Then they started having the marriage relationship within their own community. So this had been going on for the last more than 800 years. This thing Buddhists realized. So they thought, okay, very good. Though these are all professional identifications, but since they are living in their own community, so these are all different communities. So let us divide them and keep ruling them. So they started exploiting, dividing and ruling the country. So as a result, when the situation came to such a stage that the people started fighting against the British rule, and freedom struggle started. So that time they exploited basically the Muslims and the Hindus, and they instigated, that time leaders like Jawaharlal Nehru and Jinnah. Though as I understand and I had read, Jinnah was not really very much in favor of separation, but looks like that Nehru was more lured, because Nehru had the ambition to become the Prime Minister or head of the country. And he had been very close to Lady Mountbatten, was used to, influence and impress upon both of them, because this was the British design. In fact, there had been a meeting which had been conducted by Lord Mountbatten, and Jinnah was also there, Nehru was there, Lady Mountbatten was also there. So somehow both of them had been convinced that Muslims and Hindus, they cannot live together, so it is better that we should be divided and both of you can leave. Look, this is what as we have read and we have found it, so we understand that.
After 200 years of British rule over the Indian subcontinent, on August 15, 1947, it was split into two independent nations, Hindu-majority India and Muslim-majority Pakistan. The process was known as partition. Most people wanted independence, but what came after that was tragic. Some 17 million people were displaced, and an estimated 1 million were killed. Hindus were the majority, and Muslims were the largest minority. Historians say the British implemented a strategy known as divide and rule, promoting political divisions between followers of the region's main religions. Cyril Radcliffe, a British lawyer who had never been to India, was tasked with drawing up the borders. He was given just 36 days to put together the partition project. Using outdated maps and census records, his committee came up with this: India, West Pakistan, and East Pakistan, which would later become Bangladesh. But they didn't assign Muslim-majority Kashmir to either country.
When the British left in 1947, they divided a subcontinent, but left Kashmir undecided. Despite its Muslim majority, Kashmir's fate was handed to a Hindu ruler. Was it a legal misstep or a deliberate spark for future conflict? Many argue the British exit strategy sowed the seeds of a never-ending dispute. But what if we could end it, not with war, but with courage, diplomacy, and humanity? Rather than keeping the denial of the ground reality, before any politics, before any solutions, we must first acknowledge the pain of the Kashmiri people. It is only the people of Kashmir who are being victims and suffering from both India and Pakistan. Decades of conflict, loss, and silence. They've lived through curfews, fear, and bullets from the Indian side. And terrorized from the Pakistan side. Their voices are often buried beneath the noise of diplomacy and war. Peace begins with recognizing their suffering. Both India and Pakistan have to stop the violence. Both sides must respect the ceasefire, no games. To build trust, India-Pakistan trains has to restart, resume the border trade. Small acts like open borders for families. Talk again and again. Keep the diplomatic channel open as diplomacy works when formal talks fail. Provide autonomy in the region by avoiding the current concept of ownership. Give Kashmiris control over their own future. Not India's, not Pakistan's. Kashmiri belongs to Kashmiri people. What about the past promises, the plebiscite debate? Pakistan never withdrew its troops. The broken term, India revoked Article 370. India integrated Kashmir permanently. Stop the blame game. Blame won't solve this. No one wins in war, but all win in peace. India and Pakistan. It's time that the both nations must understand the essence. People first. It's not about pride, it's about people. India and Pakistan both have tried war for 75 years. By creating proper communication, avoiding the influence of non-state players, and above all, trashing the rise of populism. Now let's try something braver. Peace. But will it happen? Will they choose peace? The people of Pakistan and India, along with their patriotic political leaders, must learn and rethink that. While India and Pakistan burn billions on Kashmir, foreign powers profit in silence. The real cost isn't just in lives. It's in lost schools, hospitals and futures, and corrupt leaders. They fuel the conflict because peace doesn't win elections. Both nation, if not forgotten, but rather remember, they cannot change their neighbor. What do you think? Can Kashmir ever know peace? Subscribe, like, follow, and share for more truths